Hey guys, Brian Hilliard here, author of the best-selling book, Networking Like a Pro, and I am here with my good friend, Deb Doughty, who is a sales and personal empowerment coach, and I gotta tell you, we are fired up.
Yes, we are.
We've been doing some good stuff in terms of some different trainings and things like that. We've talked about 3 ways to grow your direct sales business and get the work-life balance you deserve. We've talked about how to get more business when you don't have a lot of time, and now we're gonna talk about some common mistakes that a lot of direct sales professionals make when building their business and trying to grow their team and doing some of those types of things. Just as an FYI for you, we are going to be leading up to our program. We've got a program on winning the direct sales game that we're also fired up about, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on here, but just so you know, that's what we'll talk about as well. Deb, I know you have some things, and I obviously have some stuff as well, but one of the things that you talk about in terms of a common mistake, it's this notion of a product pusher versus this consultant.
Right.
So maybe tell them a little bit about what that's all about.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because, I've got over 25 years of experience in the direct sales and marketing world. And I came out of a very corporate background. If you've been with us, you heard a little bit of that story. And one of the biggest mistakes that I found over the years is people trying to just shove the products down people's throats. And I hate to say that, but it is true. I mean, a lot of times when somebody comes into the room and you're at maybe a networking event or something, and unfortunately sometimes when they say, oh, I'm in direct sales or I do this or that, what they just very quickly do is they go to their bag, they pull out their catalog, oh, have you seen this? Or and they're just so quick to push the product or their services down people's throats without even knowing, first of all, who am I without building a relationship with me? How do you know I even want your product? How do you even know I need your product? How do you know I can even afford your product? So a lot of times they're just so excited about what they're doing, or I just joined this and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and oh, I'm going to make $1 million, and you just have to join my team, and they get super excited, and then a lot of times they lose the people along the way because they are not being a true consultant, meaning they're not educating people on the products. They're not building that relationship. They're not consulting them on really what are the best things and the benefits for them. How can I possibly work this out for your benefit? How can I fit this into your life? How is it going to fit in your business, not me. So that's a really big thing that I found all these years, and it's kind of hard to, kind of wheel them back in sometimes.
It's almost like the enthusiasm becomes counterproductive. You know what I mean? And they're so busy doing that, and we've all run into that. The second thing that I see a lot with people is this idea of when you're going out and growing your business, you want to be able to make sure that a lot of times I see where their day is running them instead of them running their day. And a lot of times when you're talking about something like that, I always talk about this idea of having a calendar-driven life, So what does that mean? That means you have a calendar, you've got things, for me, if you're doing this now, you're going to be going, and I put slots in for coffee connections. I'll put something in there for your coffee connection. I like to be able to have 2 or 3 different, things stacked right up in there. I do it right at the same Starbucks, or I do it at the same, wherever the case is. I see a lot of times, what do people do? They go out and they, Tuesday morning they're here, and then Wednesday night they're there, and then Thursday they're there. No, listen, if somebody says that they want to meet with me, I say, hey, listen, not a problem. I've got the morning of Thursday open or the afternoon of Friday. Or I could do it Monday, or I could do, but a lot of people, they just come from this place, and really, and we may or may not get into this here, but that really comes from a place of scarcity.
Lack.
Lack.
Totally different story.
I think. It's a different conversation. But the point is that they're coming from scarcity, and they just want to meet with the person right now because that's what they want to meet. When if you just said, I've got this or that or that or this, they would be much more successful. So a calendar-driven life is a big part of this, and I think a lot of people, they just kind of go off into, they just kind of launch into this direct sales business,
right.
you know, and they don't know really what it is that they're doing.
Right.
And I know you talk a little bit about some of those things from like a time management standpoint as well.
Absolutely. You know, it's kind of like, it's funny because you probably heard about, you know, work your plan.
Right.
Plan out the work your plan. So that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Right.
But one of the things that I really found that helps people in general, whether you are in direct sales or even a general entrepreneur, is working power hours.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, you know, if you're going to be in your office, say Tuesday from 11 to 12, you know, maybe break it down into 20-minute segments.
Okay.
20, 20, 20, right?
Okay.
So what do I mean is that instead of multitasking and mixing up all your calls, you know, doing your follow-up calls and then doing hostess calls and recruiting calls and then team member calls and, you know, this, that, and the other thing, right?
It's like, I always tell people it's like a giant game of whack-a-mole.
Right.
Remember that game?
Bing, bing, bing,
right. Okay.
So doing the power hours is, okay, the first 20 minutes, maybe I'm doing hostess calls, you know, for this week and next week that I have.
Okay.
The next 20 minutes, maybe I'm doing booking calls for future appointments that I have to have on my books, right? Because something falls through. If I'm in direct sales, I'm getting paid by commissions typically, right? So I've got to keep a certain amount of things on my books.
I understand.
Right? And then maybe the third 20 minutes is really calling prospects for recruiting. So I'm setting up interviews to talking to them about the opportunity. Right? Now, nobody said you can't do a second power hour, but I also say take a 15-minute break, maybe do a second power hour, and maybe that's where you're following up with customers for reorders for if you have a consumable product. Right? They need more product. You're calling for reorders. Maybe the next 20 minutes you're calling for customer follow-up because that is part of the game, isn't it? We do have to inspect what we expect, right? And then the other thing would be really is maybe calling your previous consultants who used to be in your unit, maybe see if life changed and maybe they're ready to come back into your unit or join your team or what have you. So it's kind of like that. If you break it down in smaller segments, you don't feel so all over the place like the whack-a-mole.
Like the whack-a-mole.
And then you're like going like this and you're pulling out your hair and you know, you're less stressed.
That's exactly right. You know, one of the things that we talk about a lot is, like I told you before, we have a program, it's called Winning the Direct Sales Game. And the reason I kind of relate that is because we took the material and we kind of broke it down to bite-sized pieces as well.
Absolutely.
You know, we took your experience as a, you know, sales director with Mary Kay. We took my experience as an author, best-selling author from Networking Like a Pro and other books. And here's what we did. We just said, listen, let's put it down into some bite-sized, you know, components. Now, you can't get it right now, okay? We'll talk about that later. You cannot get it right now. But one of the things that we do is every other week, all right, what we do is we've got MP3s that go out, some audio trainings. They are supported by some video if you want. We've got some PDFs that are kind of put in there as well. And at the end of the day, what you can do is it's a 90-day program. And what you're able to do is, you know, week 1, you get 2 or 3 MP3s and some videos. Week 3, you get 2 or 3 MP3s or some videos. We also have a monthly support call.
Absolutely.
Right? It's a marketing monthly support call where Deb or myself will go over some of the different things that you can do to be successful. We usually do about 25, 30 minutes worth of content and then have 10, 15 minutes worth of questions. We do that, as well as direct connect email access. So if you are, you know, out and about, you need to do something, you can shoot us an email.
Absolutely.
We've got a direct connect. We've got a dedicated line where you email us. We turn that right back over to you. We usually say within 24 to 48 hours. You know, usually it's 24 hours where we'll turn that right back over to you. And like I say, over a 90-day period, you get MP3s, you get videos, you get all the stuff that you need to be successful, plus the support that you need with the direct connect email, as well as the monthly conference call. So that's kind of how we see it. We call it Winning the Direct Sales Game, and you can certainly take a look at it. We'll shoot you an email a little bit later on when that becomes available, so that you can see all of that good stuff. But hopefully you've got some good stuff out of this in terms of our time together and been able to take some of this and be able to integrate it and actually make it actionable into your everyday life. So for Deb Doughty, my name is Brian Hilliard saying so long, take care, and thank you for your time.